Welcome to the Local Spotlight Show here at WJBM Studios in Jerseyville, Illinois, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I am Chris Lorton. I am your host, and a special guest today, I would say old friend, but we're both the same age. So my good friend, Gary Wilson.
Longtime friend.
Longtime friend. Graduated high school together.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't go to grade school together, though.
No.
Because you grew up in Hamburg.
Yeah, in
Big
Hamburg.
town Hamburg.
Yeah.
So, Gary, one thing we're going to get to, but we got some stuff to cover first, is later on in your life, all of a sudden you get into theater.
I did.
I had no idea you were a theater guy.
Well, there wasn't always a lot of opportunities for theater in Hamburg, but,
No, or in Hardin.
Yeah.
Now there is.
We did do a Christmas pageant at Hamburg grade school a couple times.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was
Were
about
you
it.
the star of the show?
I think I was kind of a bad elf or something. It's been a long time.
So you're retired now.
I am. Yeah.
You've been married? Married a couple times?
Yeah, I was married. I had 3 children. Ended up going through a divorce, and I am remarried.
Yeah.
And my wife now also has a daughter. So we, between the two of us, we have 4 grown children. Also have 3 grandchildren.
How are those grandchildren? Because I don't have any. How are those?
They're a blast. They're a blast.
What's so good about them? What's so great? Everybody tells me this, but I don't have any. So I don't
well, my daughter Michaela we got a 5-year-old grandson, and it's fun because you get to relive some of those really great moments of you remember those times of holding your own children, and then you get to kind of relive that when you with your grandchildren and watch them grow up and then
you're not working 24/7.
Yeah, and the sleepless nights belongs to them now. And
Yes.
And then about 2.5 years ago, she had identical twin girls, and that has been a blast.
Of course, I'm a twin.
Yes, yeah,
but we weren't identical.
Right.
Yes.
But having two babies at the same time is.
Can you tell them apart?
No.
You can't.
No,
What kind of a grandpa are you? You can't tell them apart.
My 5-year-old grandson will tell me in a minute which one's which.
I'll be darned.
My wife Donna and I talk, still, threatening to put a little tattoo behind somebody's ear or something,
Yeah.
but she will dress them with 2 bows or 1 bow or that sort of thing. But
Okay.
and they can kind of tell us now. But that's
Do they get along really well?
At moments, yeah, they are. It's like any kids. They're very busy. Those girls want to do everything their big brother can do, and they're running and charging and wrestling and carrying on, and it's a lot of fun.
That's good. Now you're retired now.
I am.
Yes.
I am. Yeah.
But you grew up in Hamburg. I don't know, listeners. Growing up in Hamburg, it was probably back when you were a kid, and we're talking probably. 60 years ago, maybe, I don't know. What was it like in Hamburg 60 years ago as a kid?
Well, they
had a school there, right?
Yeah, they had a school. It was a small school. We had 6 grades and 2 teachers. One teacher had first, second, and third. The other teacher had the other 3 grades in there. And so we had about 30 kids total. But everybody walked to the school.
Yeah.
Everybody. There was in town. We had a little store. They had a restaurant and a lunch counter. Had a gas station. Had a post office. All that sort of thing. And there was before the floods kind of took all the houses away. There was a lot more activity. But it's it kind of continued to dwindle over the years, because Hamburg's kind of off the beaten path. You gotta need to be going to Hamburg to go there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Hamburg. You had a ferry there at one time.
Yeah, when I was growing up, there was a ferry took you over to Ellsbury.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I think that had shut down probably by the time we got out of high school.
I see.
Which made it just a little more isolated. But
And we are going to celebrate our 50th class reunion this year.
Yeah.
Graduated in 1976. A heck of a good year to graduate.
Yeah. We were celebrating the 200th year of our country, and now we're looking at the 250th year.
Yeah. The 70s. 70s were some great times. Now in the 70s, you got out of high school. What'd you do after high school?
I didn't have a lot of direction. I just kind of worked some jobs. I worked at the gas station there in town in Hardin, and then I went out to Phoenix for a while. Worked a couple jobs out there. Came back, and then after a few years, I went to work out on the towboats. So I spent.
Were you working with Roger Wolfel? Did he get you on that?
He was working for a different company, and he
Did he talk you into it? He say, "This is where you got to go."
My brother-in-law, Mike Sibley, was actually the one that he was out working on the boats, and he took me down to Mid-America Transportation was the company. He took me down to Fairview Heights to talk to the vice president, who was Jerry Tinkey, who grew up in Hamburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you were in.
Right. So Jerry gave me a job, and I will always be thankful for him for that because, like I said, I spent 5 years out there, but it was a lot of structure there. You went out and got on that boat. You was on there for that period of time, 30 days. You worked 2 6-hour shifts a day and 7 days a week, and that's where you were. And that structure was very good for me at that time. And so that was a really good job for me to kind of.
So what was your job as a deckhand?
I started out as a deckhand. That's kind of where everybody starts. I was a green deckhand. I worked on the deck for about a year, and then I went to the engine room as an oiler. And that's kind of you work with there's a chief engineer on there, and I would. I did a lot of cleaning. That was you're always cleaning and mopping everything. Keeping things working, and if the wash machine goes out, you kind of like that's part of the deal. You kept all your systems running and things like that. So most of the time I spent as an oiler out there.
Well, one thing I have actually been in a barge when the engine was running.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my dad was the electrician in town, and I remember going with him once. He had to go on a barge that was tied up next to the bank in Hardin, and had something electrical to do. And I was like on the deck and peeked inside the engine room, and man, that thing was loud. Yeah, and big.
Yeah.
How big are those engines? I was trying to remember. Man, they were. It seemed like they were humongous.
Depending on the size of the boat, but the one I spent a lot of time on was like 3,200 horsepower. Each engine was 1,600 each, and they had they called them EMDs. That was electromotive diesels. These are the same kind of engines that's in an engine in like a train locomotive.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
Yeah, and so we had some 567 EMDs, which had 567 cubic inches per cylinder.
But how big?
They
were like 10 foot wide or 8 foot wide or something, or 6.
Well, the width of that towboat, you like the typical one you're going to see on the Illinois, you would have 2 of those engines with decks in between them. So, they're they're 4 or 5 feet wide at least.
Okay.
And they're kind of tall and narrow for that
purpose.
But they're and they were set up where you could have like a 6-cylinder or 8 cylinders or 12. They would add these blocks on to make longer ones. And those big engines, they would, when they're really running, they're only going about 800 RPM.
So did you ever have any, when you were working on the towboat, did you ever have any times where you were in danger? Like you never fell off the boat, did you?
I never fell off the boat. It happened while I was out there, and I was young and never thought about it back then. I'd probably be a lot more cautious now than I was then.
But somebody fell off while you were working?
Yeah, they
did they die? They drowned?
Yes.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, one not on the boat that I was riding on at the time, but one guy fell off in the wintertime, and so hypothermia set in before another guy another time that they didn't find him for a couple months. So yeah,
there's some danger there working on a boat.
Yes,
even if you had a life jacket on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when in the wintertime, decks are slick.
Yes.
You got spray coming up over the front of the bow, and you're out there, and yeah. So I was very fortunate. It was, but yeah, there were some hazards out there for sure.
Hey, if you're just joining us, I have the Gary Wilson from Hamburg, Illinois. He's actually into theater now. He worked on the Towboats, and but after the Towboats, you worked a few years. You made it through Alive, and then you got into you went back to school,
right? Yeah,
to be an electrician.
Yeah. I that structure on the boat was really good, and I'm like, okay, what do I really want to do here? And some people that I knew had gone to Rankin, been successful and working the trades.
Gone drinking or gone ranking?
Right. Well, there was some of that. Yeah. But yeah, I went back to school and went to day school at Rankin and got out and got a job as an electrician. And I ended up going back to night school for control systems and instrumentation. And so that's what I did my career.
You turned pretty studious.
I did.
Yeah.
It was.
You had kids to support.
I didn't have kids at that time.
Oh, you didn't.
It was. It was right after that. Well, actually, I was still in school when I got married, and then a few years later, had kids. I was actually in my 30s when I started having my kids, and so. But it was.
So Towboats from 80 to 85, and then back to school, and then a couple years, and then landed a job where at?
Well, I first worked at Monsanto as a contract electrician over in Chesterfield, and worked there. And then, the late 80s, things were, kind of, the job market wasn't all that great, and I worked a couple different places. I went to work for a place called James River. And anyway, I worked at McDonnell Douglas, got laid off there. That was back when McDonnell Douglas had like 40,000 people in St. Louis, then I got in that layoff. I went back to Rankin and actually taught day school for like 1 year. And then I went to Amoco before they closed Amoco down in Wood River when it was chemical.
Yeah.
And that's when I went back to night school to get into instrumentation and process control.
What's that job like? Control systems.
Well,
you just sit and watch it.
Actually, the operators are watching the processes. What we're doing is we're going out in the field. You've got some kind of transmitter in the field that is sending the signal in to the house, and then you might have a flow transmitter is measuring the flow, comes back in, gets processed, and then there's another signal that goes out to a valve to move that valve where you're going to keep, you're going to maintain a flow, or maybe you got a steam that you're going to maintain a temperature and that sort of thing. So you're controlling that process, and that's advanced tremendously over the last 30 years too, where a lot of the old stuff was pneumatic, and you'd have to work on that equipment. And, a lot of stuff is electronic. It's all computer control. They got advanced safety systems, especially in the petrochemical. You're, as you always say, we're not making chocolate. You have to really, safety is so crucial of keeping everything under control. So
you retired out of that business.
Yeah.
How many years ago?
About a year and a half ago, I retired.
So you're a fresh retiree.
Yeah. I'm adapting fairly well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I spent 23 years at the Wood River Refinery. It used to be Shell, but it had already changed to Tosco, and then it was Phillips 66, ConocoPhillips, back to Phillips 66. We changed a few names, but now it's the Wood River Refinery, same refinery.
Yeah, if I could do it over, I think I'd retire like in my early 30s. If I could do it. Yeah.
Retirement doesn't have anything to do with age. It has everything to do with money. So, if you can do it, good for you.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're, a theater guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and
how did you
I've
get into theater?
been a theater guy for a little
You
while.
always
now.
had the looks for a theater guy.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, it was kind of thing. Going to Calhoun High School. I played in band. I was in chorus, that sort of thing. I played a little sports. Ran track, but I wasn't. That wasn't really where my. I enjoyed more creative things and music and that sort of thing. But you get out, you get a career, you get a family, that sort of thing. I wasn't really. I thought anything to do with that sort of thing, was already past me.
Right.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then my youngest daughter, she was just when she started walking and talking, she was singing and dancing. I mean, that was just she was just kind of like. So we gave her opportunities like we always try to. Whatever our kids' interests are.
Yeah, we go full bore.
Yeah, we do. And I can remember Mariah's first dance recital where they put the little kids up front, and first, and then during intermission they sent them out with the parents. And she had done her little dance routines there at Hathaway Hall, and she's sitting on my lap there watching the other girls dance. She says, "Daddy, that was so fun. I wish I was still up there right now." She was like, she had so much confidence. But so she was singing and dancing, and then when she was about 7 or 8 years old, maybe about 7, there was a fundraiser at Altonville Theater. They called Broadway and Chocolate, where they did this review type of thing, and my cousin mentioned something about it that maybe Mariah could do this. So we kind of checked into it, and also said, well, why don't you do that? You can sing. I sang at church and that sort of thing. So I ended up doing that little review. I was scared to death.
You were.
I mean, yeah, but anyway, we did this duet, Ann and I, and the following spring, the director for that was with Curtains Up Theater Company directing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Okay.
And she was looking for cast members, and so she contacted us, And I'm like, boy, that'd be fun. I played that music in high school of Joseph. That'd be super fun. So my daughter Mariah, she was one of the children in that, and I was Reuben, the oldest brother, and my very first experience with like musical theater. And we Curtains Up is a small community theater company that they don't have their own venue. So we would rent Hathaway Hall, Dunham Hall at SIU, and there was a whole lot of theater majors at SIU that was in that production, and all these young kids just took me under their wing and showing me stuff.
You loved it.
It was just a ball. And I'm like I thought I'd never have an opportunity to even do anything like this.
Yeah.
And of course, it's also something I got to do with Mariah because she was in the production, and that's been probably almost 20 years ago. And I've done multiple productions with Curtains Up, and I've done things at Altonville Theater, and it's just been a ball. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about going to Hollywood?
No.
Okay.
I am, I still live in reality.
Well, I don't know.
But it's super fun, and you get to spend some time with really talented people and good people, and so it's been great.
Very enjoyable for you.
Yeah.
What's your message to somebody that's maybe listening to this, all right, interview, and they go, I wouldn't mind trying that. I think I got talent. What do you think? What do you tell them?
There's community theaters around that would welcome you in.
They would.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, if there's a larger cast and they have an ensemble, or...
You just get your foot in the door somewhere.
Yeah.
And work your way up like you did.
Right. And there's some people that you need people backstage, to work on sets. There's all kinds of things even behind the scenes. There's a whole team of people that it takes to put that on. So there's a lot of opportunity for people that just want to, we've got people that never want to be on stage, but they're always there to help build sets, to paint,
how fun is this being in theater?
Oh, it's just a great time. You just make all these new friends every time, and many of these people are not really shy people. They're really, fun and
Yeah.
and just great singers and talent and it's just super fun.
Hey, so tell us about Annie. You play FDR,
Yeah.
Roosevelt,
Right.
in this play Annie, and most people know the story of Annie.
Yeah.
But give us the lowdown on this play
Yeah.
that you're going to be in.
Right. Well, a lot of people are familiar with Annie, and actually, this is my second time doing Annie because probably it was like 2009 that I was in a production at Altonville Theater, but I was younger then, so I played Rooster Hannigan. I've aged out of that.
Okay.
And actually, my daughter, who's about to turn 28 next month, she was one of the orphans in that production. So we continue to do that. Anyway, Curtains Up Theater Company is doing Annie at that we will perform at the Roxanne Arena. The Nazarene church there in Roxanne bought the Roxanne Cine. I think they called it the Nazarene Theater or the Roxanne. I'm not quite sure, but it's right there on 111. But yeah, we have a great cast. Really talented. The guy who's playing Moorbucks is Steve Scheninger, who is he's a musical family. He does a lot of stuff. He actually has like his own band. I think the Shin Sings orchestra or something. And he performs around, and that sort of thing. Debbie Manicki plays Grace. People might know her. She did almost always Patsy Cline, a few years back. Beautiful voice,
Yeah.
Really, really talented. We got a young girl, Isla Stelmach, who's playing Annie, just adorable.
Oh.
And there's just so many of that. But yeah, Annie is it's kind of this classic tale. It's rags to riches for Annie. They've got some villains in there, and you got Warbucks, who is kind of rough on the outside. That Annie melts him. And it's a feel good story, and Annie takes place during kind of the Depression. Which is the reason FDR is part of that.
Yeah. And it's July 24th through the 26th.
Yeah.
And then again, it goes from July 31st to August 2nd.
Yeah. It's
And
two weekends in a row.
2 weekends in a row.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
How do people find out about get tickets and all that good stuff?
Curtains Up Theater Company has a website.
Okay.
It's
Curtains Up.
curtainsuptheater.com and or cutcannie.com you'll take you right to the ticket page, so you
Okay.
can get all the information there, and you can get. And like you said, if anybody's interested in theater, that's where they'll on curtainsuptheater.com. That's where they'll post auditions, and if you got upcoming shows or any of that sort of thing.
Well,
So-
it sounds like a fun. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
Oh
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's always and being retired, I got the time to work on my lines and
Yeah.
not with the other stresses.
And you're
of the
singing
day.
some songs too, right? Do you do some singing in this?
Yeah. Well, and many times, in a show like this, people will have multiple roles. So besides being FDR in the second act, the first act I'm in some ensemble stuff. So we're doing,
Okay.
in the chorus,
Yeah.
with these type of songs.
Yeah.
But if you're familiar with Annie, Roosevelt kind of sings, but he kind of speaks all of his roles as well. So, but yeah.
Well, Gary, it's been fun having you in studio, but we've run out of time.
Okay. All right.
The curtain's closing.
The curtain's closing, as it does.
So thanks so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure.
Really appreciate it. It's
And,
been fun.
Thanks for the tickets.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully we can get some folks from up here to come on down and see us. Like I say, we got a great relationship with the theater there in Roxana, and to do things there. And
sounds like
they
fun.
got a great, the popcorn and hot dogs out front like the old school, and it's a great venue.
Well, you take care.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Chris.